We here at Team TripleJump enjoy the occasional chortle. We've also been known to like a good titter, a giggle, or even the occasional guffaw, not too often now though. As such, we're very pleased when a funny video game comes along to elicit such reactions. For this list, we've decided to try and identify 10 of the funniest games around. These aren't just standard games with funny bits or games that are unintentionally funny because of how broken they are. No, the following titles are all trying to cause our sides to split throughout most of their runtime, or at the very least they're hoping to put smiles on our faces, and this video gives us the opportunity to show our appreciation. After all, if laughter really is the best medicine, then these 10 games have certainly helped to keep the doctor away. Is that the apples? Of course, comedy is subjective and not everyone is going to find all of these games hilarious, but we think that each of them should be able to raise at least a few smirks even in the grumpiest of gamers. Talking about you. Yeah, you. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 of the funniest video games of all time. Number 10. Donut County. Mira is a young lady who works in a donut shop with her friend and colleague, the untrustworthy trash panda named BK. Responsible for scheduling the delivery of said donuts, BK is apparently more interested in delivering holes to the resident of Donut County. Not donut holes, the tasty bite-sized treat made by frying the pastry that made up the middle of the donut, but actual holes. You know, in the ground. This quirky story is told in the form of flashbacks as the once peaceful county's residents are sitting around a campfire in the caverns beneath town, having been deposited here by irresponsible raccoon BK and his physics-defying hole-summoning app. The wacky premise is humorous on its own, but Donut County's witty characters and writing add to the comedic tone as well as the absurd situations that can result from some of the gameplay. Have you ever been in control of a giant hole that's spewing out hordes of newly born rabbits? Didn't think so. Another feather in Donut County's comedy cap is its handling of the in-game encyclopedia, which is written as if it was from the point of view of BK. Some of those item descriptions are just a joy to read, and it's truly fascinating to finally be able to understand how a raccoon sees the world. Number 9. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. A standalone expansion in the much more serious Far Cry 3, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon plants its tongue firmly in its cheek and turns the audaciousness up to 11. An unashamed send-up of 80s culture and action films, this FPS gleefully uncovers every trope imaginable to provide the ultimate, absurdly 80s experience. From the opening scene that features a helicopter ride to the tune of Little Richard's Long Tall Sally and action star Michael Biehn taking on the lead role, to the synthy soundtrack and the prolific profanity, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon is so full of 80s winks and references that if you cut it, it would bleed neon. Whether you're facing off against mutant turtles in the sewer or punching nuclear reactors, you'll be in a near constant daze of retro-themed mirth. Even if Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon's brand of humor isn't up your street, the excessive, explosive violence and moody, neon-drenched aesthetics are sure to turn a few heads. Oh, and if all that's not enough, then how about this? Press the melee button when no one is in rage and protagonist Rex will make a rude gesture. There's nothing like flipping off the remains of a tough enemy to release that pent-up rage. So cool. I wonder if there's a mod that adds this to Dark Souls. Number 8. Untitled Goose Game. As a functioning part of polite society, we humans are expected to maintain a certain level of decorum and respect for others and their property, lest we risk being shunned and ostracized. Geese, on the other hand, have no such expectations hanging over them. These brash, boisterous birds are free to march around on their goosey feet, flapping their goosey wings in intimidating fashion and generally being impertinent little malcontents. A few years back, someone at Australian indie developer House had the bonza idea to create a video game in which players take on the role of a particularly unruly goose and get to throw their inhibitions aside in favor of flapping around doing unruly goose things for a few hours. Released in 2019 across multiple formats, Untitled Goose Game was wildly successful, with its quirky charm and unique concept winning it many high-profile admirers. The simple, limitless joy and hilarity of controlling a surly waterfowl as it perpetuates thoroughly unnecessary misdeeds on the population of a small village is one of the funniest experiences in gaming, and the simple gameplay means that anyone can enjoy it. Untitled Goose Game is for those of us who keep a feathery little anarchist buried deep inside, our inner goose, if you will. Go on, let it out from time to time. Number 7. Octodad Dadliest Catch. While the goose from Untitled Goose Game just wants to watch society burn, one petty misdeed at a time, the octopus from Octodad Dadliest Catch just wants to fit in. Any dads and upstanding family men out there will likely understand the day-to-day life of the average suburban male. Going to work, attending events, doing chores, and looking after the family can be tough sometimes, but imagine doing all these things while also trying to conceal the fact that you are actually an octopus. It's the classic cephalopod out of water story as the titular Octodad attempts to do everyday tasks like shopping and making coffee, but his flailing tentacles and status as an aquatic mollusk work against him. The comedy of Octodad Dadliest Catch is completely unexpected, and players won't be able to help but smile as they're attempting to get Octodad through the day whilst listening to his interactions with his family, and that very few people have caught on to the fact that this man is actually an octopus is just delightful in its absurdity. Nothing like this could ever happen in real life, of course. I mean, if any of my friends or family were secretly an octopus, I'd totally notice straight away. Totally, right? Number 6. South Park: The Stick of Truth. When it comes to games based on animated comedy shows, only a few really stand out. One is The Simpsons Hit and Run, which, while certainly funny, puts a larger focus on its top-notch GTA-style gameplay. The Ubisoft-published South Park games, The Stick of Truth and The Fractured But Whole, however, keep the shocking humor and clever parody going throughout. While both offer outrageous laughs and entertaining gameplay, we've gone with the Obsidian-developed South Park: The Stick of Truth as the fresher and funnier of the two. Sending up common RPG tropes and LARPers, the game provides a fantasy story that plays out entirely in the children's heads, and this premise results in countless ridiculous situations in which the protagonist turns some kind of real-life situation into something that makes sense in their childish take on Tolkien-esque fantasy. Featuring the show's voice talent and having absolutely no qualms about being as distasteful as possible, South Park: The Stick of Truth is a treat for those who take guilty pleasure in its brazen and merciless comedic stylings. It even managed to turn the fact that parts of it were banned in several countries into a joke, offering players vivid text descriptions of what they were missing in lieu of the real thing. Well played, that's what I say. Number 5. Discworld. The old point-and-click adventure game genre was a bit of a goldmine for mirth-filled adventures. The Monkey Island series, Maniac Mansion, Sam & Max, and more have all tickled countless funny bones over the years, but for this list we've gone for one that doesn't get talked about as much as many of its contemporaries, the 1995 Psygnosis-published take on Terry Pratchett's famous novels, Discworld. This classic adventure follows hapless wizard protagonist Rincewind, who is voiced by British comedy legend Eric Idle as he attempts to track down a secret cult who have summoned a destructive dragon from an alternate dimension. The combination of Idle's voice talents, Pratchett's wonderfully wacky world, and some great writing and plenty of witty asides and fourth wall breaking will mean that you're likely to spend a lot of your time with Discworld emitting hearty chortles. Whether you're assembling a dragon detector, trying to turn Rincewind into a true hero, or making a batch of love custard, you'll be enjoying yourself at least 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time you'll be bashing your head into the desk due to the ridiculously difficult and esoteric puzzles, but even this could be amusing for onlookers, so the comedy really never stops, does it? Number 4. The Stanley Parable. In the Stanley Parable, players assume the role of Stanley, an office worker whose job is to look at a computer screen and press buttons. One day, the screen goes blank, and with no reason to continue pressing buttons, Stanley gets up and walks around for a bit. And so, an epic journey begins, accompanied only by a disembodied voice known as the narrator. Said narrator, voiced by esteemed voice actor Kevin Brighting, will attempt to narrate Stanley's journey as it happens. I say attempt because depending on the player's input, Stanley is free to defy the narration as much as possible, which can often lead to hilarious results. Most of the comedy in the Stanley Parable comes from not doing what you're told. Forcing the narrator to try to keep up with your erratic actions, become frustrated, subtly question your intelligence, or even occasionally lose his cool and resort to outright insults is a source of endless hilarity. The Stanley Parable isn't all about humor though, and will occasionally drastically change the tone and attempt to make you ask yourself some very difficult questions about your life. Not now, the Stanley Parable. I just want to laugh at the man with the posh voice getting flustered, please. Number 3. Jazz Punk. From the refined and subtle to the completely absurd now with Jazz Punk, a game that's so out there that you occasionally feel like you've slipped into a weird alternate reality where nothing makes sense and vending machines offer live centipedes next to the edible underwear. Trying to describe Jazz Punk is somewhat difficult, but we'll give it a shot. It's a first-person adventure, we suppose, where the player is given a simple mission to complete in an environment and then is free to explore and uncover all the random references and bizarre encounters that exist around town. It's set in an alternate history version of the Cold War, which might cause you to expect some political undertones or satire, but Not really, it's just a series of barely linked, nonsensical encounters that are designed to make you chuckle while questioning your sanity. It looks bizarre, it sounds weird, heaven knows where they found their voice actors, and the whole thing is just absurd to the point of being unsettling. You'll wander around, you'll have no idea what's going on, but you're sure to snort with laughter every time some gag catches you off guard. Also, what does the phrase jazz punk even mean? We don't know, but I can tell you this, we do kind of like it. Number 2. Armed and Dangerous. Back in 2003, most shooting games were serious affairs. Max Payne 2: The Fall of Max Payne continued the tragic story of the titular maverick cop, and the original Call of Duty was busy portraying the events of World War II. Then you had Armed and Dangerous over in the corner with its tea-drinking robot and its gun that fires sharks. Developed by Planet Moon and conceived by the creators of MDK, Armed and Dangerous is a third-person shooter where players control Roman, a brash ex-con with exceptional skills in firearms and thievery. Throughout the adventure, Roman will be accompanied by his companions, the aforementioned tea-obsessed robot named Q, a mole man named Jonesy, who takes way too much pleasure in blowing things up, and Rexus, or Rexus, a diminutive seer with a glass eye and an unfortunate stench. This eclectic mix of characters results in many hilarious hijinks, with Rexus, or Rexus, often being the butt of the joke. Yeah, because he smells. And the comedic tone is enhanced by the anachronistic setting where you'll be wielding a machine gun against lads with bows and arrows, and self-aware robots exist alongside traditional fantasy tropes. Also, as I mentioned earlier, it has a gun that fires sharks. I could have just left it at that, really. Number 1. West of Loathing. Imagine Fallout New Vegas, only it's set in the Old West, has a stickman visual style, and it's completely balmy, and you've basically got West of Loathing. Classified as a comedy-adventure role-playing game, players control a character who is setting off to the Wild West in search of fame, fortune, and adventure. Choose from classes like the charismatic Snake Oiler or the violence-focused Cow Puncher, and then jump into an open-ended world full of undead cowboys, clowns, and evil cows. West of Loathing's odd name comes from the fact that it's a sequel to a browser-based RPG of similar aesthetic design named Kingdom of Loathing. Although that game is all about the constant slapstick and referential humor throughout, West of Loathing, like the Stanley Parable, has its serious moments that attempt to bring the mood down somewhat. Don't worry though, when you're not discovering the harrowing aftermath of a demon summoning ritual, you'll definitely be having a good time rifling through spittoons and hanging out with characters like Buffalo Bill. So, strap on your stickman cowboy boots, mosey on down to Dirtwater, equip that silly walk perk, and start making your fortune. You'll have your pockets full of meat before you know it. Oh, meat is the currency in the game, by this way. I probably should have mentioned that first. Thanks for watching.